Well, welcome to all of the international delegates at the Maritime and Mining Conference 2011 in Durban. It's been 9 years since the Global Solidarity Conference took place in September 2002 in the Port of Newcastle in Australia, one of our largest export commodity ports. There were unions from North America, South Africa, Australia and New Zealand that were determined to reach out to each other and formulate clear plans to protect workers and defend workers' rights in the increasing contradictions and acute situation through the globalisation of trade, particularly in that connection between the mine face down to the port and into export industries. It was characterised at a time of great creation of wealth. Those years were characterised by an intensification by international capital and its agents, including government agents, against the rights of organised labour. We saw through the disaggregation of companies like BHP, changes and corporate changes to Rio Tinto, the tremendous offensive against workers' rights by those and other mining companies in places like Australia, also South Africa and South America, an accentuation of an offensive against the ability to organise effectively, while also developing their ability both legally and corporate through a deregulated international trading system to pretty well do whatever they want. Between 1992 around about and 2007 we saw one of the greatest periods of the creation of wealth ever. Most of it driven through, in particular, mining and international trade, where we saw commodities move increasingly into developing countries, into China, and the tremendous impact that had on the corporations and the extensiveness of those corporations to be able to determine outcomes, government outcomes, community outcomes, political outcomes, industrial outcomes. Didn't translate into better decent work, didn't translate into redistribution of wealth, didn't translate into better labour relations, didn't translate into a more functional and civilised and social approach nationally and internationally. In fact, the opposite happened. The polarisation of wealth, the exploitation of that wealth, the speculation ultimately ended up into the destruction of our communities. Something we're dealing today through the pigs, Portugal, Ireland, Greece and Spain in Europe. The destruction of wealth in Africa. The destruction of wealth and infrastructure in South America, the ability to dismantle strong unionism in all of those countries, including Australia. It was very prescient, those unions that came together in 2002 and determined to do something about it, to build solidarity, to build communication, to build the effective translation of worker power between the mining face, down the supply route, into the ports, onto the ships, and ultimately to those destinations where those commodities were translated into steel making and other industries through manufacturing and then on into retail. So what are the lessons after 9 years? Firstly, we need to have integrated labour networks. We need to communicate effectively. We need to use our collective labour strength in both our self-interest and our mutual interests. We need to continue to build and strategise at every element of the trading and supply route. We need to bring unions, national unions and international unions, into active engagement and campaigning in their own interests. We need to lift and lever off the economic power that we've got and that have been exploited. If we don't unionise every section of that supply chain in between the mines, into the manufacturing sector, back to retail, then we're going to continue to see the massive political and industrial exploitation, labour exploitation in the boom times, and in the down times we're going to continue to see the wastage and the washing away of all of that wealth with no real returns to those working communities that created it, other than unemployment, an inability to secure health, an inability to secure education, an inability to secure communities in a much more complex world society. Now these are the big challenges, maritime and mining, and in a broader sense, to the Global Union of Federations, the ITUC and the WFTU. We need to build an international labour voice. We have to continue to rehabilitate all of the industrial mechanisms. When I was elected president of the ITF, it demonstrated that those decisions that we made in Newcastle and that we continued to prosecute through maritime and mining and other solidarity initiatives, that type of leadership was resonating and was building momentum across the globe. Same with the election of Sharon, who I understand is going to send a message to the conference, who is determined to translate and continue to be part of the change of translating international unionism into an effective delivery of justice and decent work. Global union federations that are identifying how to build strong national, regional and international unions that work together and not in isolation. The big challenge for maritime mining now is to continue the process of rehabilitation of the international trade union movement with a direct observance to the needs of working men and women in their communities. We need to go forward through ITF, through ICAM, through the ITUC, through the IMF, into a process where the key messages of solidarity, effective organisation, the principled commitment to working men and women and the great struggles that they're going to always confront. That's our message. That's been the message of maritime and mining over the 9 years. That will continue to be our message. I wish your deliberations the very best. I know some of the greatest trade unionists in the world are sitting over there considering the future, not only of the maritime industry, not only of the mining industry, but of the working class as a whole. And I know your deliberations will continue to take us forward into the future we deserve, not the future they're planning for us. Good luck, comrades.